Hello and a warm welcome. The Indian economy is just about recovering from demonetization, and the one concern people across the country have is how ready are we for the GST? It's supposed to be the one single biggest transformational act since independence possibly. Will it have a positive impact on the economy, and how much disruption will it cause in the short term? Joining us to discuss this at the GST Town Hall in Mumbai is Union Prime Minister Piyush Goyal. He's one of the key architects in helping the government put this GST mechanism in place. We're also joined by various players who are looking at the GST very, very carefully, representatives of different trader associations here in Mumbai. So welcome to all of you. Minister, welcome to the GST Town Hall. I want to begin by asking you, Mr. Goyal, about how prepared you believe we are. Because as I speak to people here, as I speak to people elsewhere, the one parallel that is drawn often is demonetization. Now, demonetization was a grenade flung suddenly and out of the blue. Here, there is a certain amount of preparation. People know what to expect. Is it even correct to draw this parallel, and how prepared are we?
Rahul, first of all, let me clarify. Demonetization was neither a grenade nor thrown out of the blue. It was discussed in great detail between Reserve Bank of India and the government. It was found to be in the interests of the nation for curbing black money and corruption. And as events since then have shown, the people of India have welcomed demonetization. They have borne a little bit of difficulty, happily trusting that this Prime Minister and this government mean good for India. As far as GST is concerned, this has been in the making for the last 14 years. Literally 14 साल के वनवास के बाद आज इस देश को भगवान राम वापस मिल रहे हैं. The idea was first mooted when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister. Thereafter, the Congress government in 2007, in one of the budget speeches, proposed to find a solution to this new way of taxation. Around 2011, a law was introduced. Unfortunately, national consensus could not be built around that law, largely because the framework in which it was sought to be brought in, and the fact that the compensation to states for reducing rate of CST, the central services tax, central sales tax, was not being paid in time, so states were hesitant to get involved in the GST story. After Prime Minister Modi took charge of the government, Prime Minister Modi engaged with all stakeholders, every state, their administration, trade associations, people of India. And after 3 painstaking years of effort, and I promise you, probably millions of man hours have gone in to make this happen. So it's not something which is not founded or deeply rooted in a lot of preparation. The country is prepared, trade, business, the people of India are welcoming it across the country. It's like swimming. Howsoever much one may prepare, end of the day, you've got to jump into the water to learn to swim. You can't stand on the shore and learn all the movements and say, now I'm prepared to jump into the water and swim. Obviously, there will be certain issues which will keep coming up. It's a nation of 1 billion people, thousands of trades, millions of businessmen and traders and manufacturers. As things evolve, things will get sorted.
I have some examples of what happened when the GST was introduced in other countries, far less complex than the Indian economy. In Canada, retailers put up placards saying, "Don't blame me for the GST." And this is when there were huge cash register snafus, vending machine meltdowns. In Malaysia, when GST was introduced in April 2015, there were reports that cash registers weren't calibrated to deal with the new regime. In South Korea, when this was introduced as a value-added tax in 1977, it became a big game of hide-and-seek between tax officials implementing the new system and market vendors seeking to avoid taxation. I can go on. I'm asking you essentially, what is the government's contingency in terms of dealing with some of these consequences, because there'll clearly be problems?
Well, 2 things here. First of all, you have once again demonstrated why you are one of my favorite journalists. You really come well prepared, and you know I love engaging with people who research and come for the interview. But more importantly, I think the difference between them and us are 2. One, for the first time in independent India, we have a move which has universal acceptance across the political spectrum in the country. So every political party, even if they are not in government in any of the states, even if they lost every Lok Sabha assembly election, but even if they may only have a presence in Rajya Sabha. So in some sense, there has never been such a massive transformational reform in 70 years of Indian independence with unanimity across the country. So I have yet to hear, people may have concerns, mera rate kam hai, zyada hai, network tayar hai, nahi hai, वगैरह वगैरह. But there is yet to be one person who can stand up and oppose GST, because that's the kind of universal consultation, absorbing everybody's ideas that has gone into it. The second big difference in Indian context is that the people of India trust that this is good for them. This is for the first time that people have understood and appreciated that what is being done is ultimately good for us. After all, why did people support demonetization in such a big way? Irrespective of what certain journalists or certain opposition parties may have tried to whip up passions and try and make people oppose. Still you found 90% of the country stands solidly behind Prime Minister Modi, because the people trusted that this was good for their future, their children's future, the nation's future. That's why India has far more resilience, and the people of India are far more engaged in this whole process. So glitches will come. I promise you, there will be glitches. And maybe that will be the headline that you may show on your channel. But the reality is, the people and the government will work together to overcome these glitches.
The idea behind GST is that there will be a one nation, one tax. One of the economic criticisms of GST has been that even though this is one nation, it is not one tax. Given the various categories that have been introduced, people are wondering, is this, because for example, products like petroleum, alcohol that contribute about 40% of state revenue are outside the purview of the GST totally. So how is this,
electricity also.
How is this one nation, one tax?
Right. Very good question, and gives me an opportunity to set the context. If you recall, when VAT was introduced, all the states didn't come on board on day one. But finally we decided to introduce it. And once the benefits of that came on the table, all the other states, even much faster than expected, joined in the VAT framework, where mod VAT was given for all the input taxes and you only paying tax on the value add. Similarly, it's a new thing of massive dimensions, and every decision is with 100% consensus. There's never been a dissent in the GST Council. That has been the deft leadership of Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Jaitley. And which is why I often say this is a collective success of the entire country. It's not Mr. Modi's success. It's not BJP's success. It is Team India's success. Because everybody has unanimously agreed. Now, unanimity could not be brought on petroleum and alcohol being brought in, and electricity. Should we then keep arguing and fighting and not bring any good in the nation? Or should we say, okay, alcohol, petroleum are parked for the moment. Let's bring in good for a larger part of the economy. The 40% you say is probably in terms of value. But if you see in terms of economic activity and transactions, they don't constitute a very significant portion of the volume of transactions. And the corruption scope there is much less. Black marketing scope is relatively to the extent you can put a, pollute the petrol with, corrupt the petrol with some mixing of some kerosene and stuff like that. But on a day-to-day basis, petroleum is imported, government imports, sold by a bill, so you can't have leakages in the system. Once the benefits become evident, my own suspicion is states will themselves put pressure that let's bring petroleum, let's bring alcohol, but we need a national consensus on that. The second question is even more interesting. And that actually, to me, shows the bankruptcy of some of the economists and some of the critics of GST in its present form. I used to oppose GST because I was worried that there will be only one tax rate. In a nation like India, where there's still a large segment of people who are still making two ends meet, there's still a large middle class and a small section which is rich. How can a BMW car be taxed at the same rate as a rubber ki chappal? How can a Mercedes car or a product which is a fancy 80-inch, 100-inch LED screen be taxed at the same rate as foodstuffs? Especially when a large part of the people of India, major portion of their family budget goes to buy foodstuffs. Very clearly you need to differentiate between luxury goods, sin goods, essential goods and normal goods. Therefore, and plus the current system of taxation had many more rates. What we've tried to do is put them in the nearest bucket. So there's a 0 rate for food stuff and stuff like that. There's a 5% for essentials like solar panels. We want to promote renewable energy. It's good for the world, good for India, good for the people of India and their health. There's a 12% rate for goods which merit some consideration, need not be at the normal 18%. Then there's a normal 18%. And the advantage with having different rates is we've been able to fit every item at the nearest slab so that the loss or gain is very nominal. People don't feel a stress that 0 has become 18 or 0 has become 12.
On the one side, you've got government ministers, secretaries. I spoke to Hasmukh Adhia. He said, don't worry, prices are not going to go up. On the other hand, customers, and I'll give you a personal example. I received a call from our builder who's supposed to deliver an apartment to me in October, saying that if you pay before the 1st of July, you will not have to pay 12.5% of tax, which you would have to if you pay after the 1st of July. Now, I researched, I read up, there are statements from Venkaiah Naidu, your colleague, there are statements from Hasmukh Adhia, from Arun Jaitley, which say that builders are getting input credit and therefore they don't need to charge customers extra. However, on the ground, not just me, I may be slightly better researched than some other people, but lots of customers are getting calls saying pay before the 1st of July or you will be charged extra.
Which is the advantage of a town hall like the one you have organized today, and I'm grateful to you for that. It gives us an opportunity to tell the consumers of India that anybody who does not pass on this input credit can actually be hauled up under the anti-profiteering provisions that we have provided in GST. So I would appeal to you to please run a mission, run a campaign to educate customers that if anybody tries to pass on the benefit, the GST on any consumer and does not give the benefit of input credits.
No, but I spoke to the builder and I'll give you his side of the story. He said that your apartment is virtually near completion. All the input that was to go into the construction of your tower has already been consumed, so I will get no input credit. So I will have to, on the day of completion, charge that 12.5% to you, even though I get no input credit. He says the government is confused, they don't know what they're talking about. There is no option, you will have to pay tax. आपको तो देना ही पड़ेगा, आप देख लो अभी देना है कि बाद में देना.
There's a transitional period. In the transitional period, we recognize that there will be certain issues. Any game-changing reform like GST will always have certain transitional issues. As they come along, they can get resolved. For example, the issue, first it was decided that considering that there would have been an excise paid good that would already be there with certain retailers, where he may not have, if he has proof of what tax is paid on his inputs, we have allowed him to take credit when he sells the goods. If there is a good on which he doesn't have proof, exactly how much excise is paid or tax is paid, we had introduced 40% of the sale value as an input credit. After representations from various trade associations, we have increased that now to 60%. So if there's a product on which the excise papers are not available with a trader, for example, a shopkeeper, knowing and his product falls in the range of, let's say, 18%. So on 9%, which is the central GST, he will be allowed a 60% input credit when he pays the tax. So we have thought through the transitional period. There may be specific instances on which, when the issues come up, the GST Council can take a view on that. Bear in mind, Rahul, this is not about what we in the government of India or Delhi or Finance Minister Jaitley decide. We have actually given up our powers on all of these decisions to the GST Council, which comprises 28 chief ministers and their finance ministers of each state, the 7 union territories, each one an independent person protecting the interests of his revenue and his state's trade and business. So the beauty of this system is that consensus prevails and final decisions are taken by consensus, जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं ना, अब किसी की भी मनमानी नहीं चलेगी. अब संयुक्त निर्णय लेंगे, सब लोग मिलकर देश हित में निर्णय लेंगे और समय के साथ निर्णय की प्रक्रिया और सरल होगी.
As we speak to traders in Mumbai, in Delhi, small, medium-sized traders, their one concern is about having to file a lot of online forms, and they're very, very concerned about it. I will give you an example of a diagnostic center which currently files 2 service tax returns in a year. Starting September onwards, this service provider says he'll have to file 3 returns every month.
What is his turnover, by the way?
On more than 5 lakhs, I assume, obviously.
Not 5 lakhs. The minimum is 20 lakhs and up to 75 lakhs. At least for manufacturers, we've allowed, and traders, we've allowed a composition scheme. So all those who are up to 20 lakhs have to do nothing. They don't come under GST.
No, but can I just complete this?
Yeah.
3 returns in a month on the 10th, the 15th and the 20th, all online. That is 36 returns in a year. 12 TDS returns plus 1 annual return. So mathematically speaking, this person who's filing 2 service tax returns will have to file 49. They're concerned about this. How do you respond?
Absolutely. And that's another misinformation that sadly is going around in the whole system. I'd like to inform you and your viewers that actually, and I say this with authority, I'm a chartered accountant, I say this with full responsibility, actually we have to file no return. The way the GST and network has been designed. I'm a person who loves to, or prides myself in thinking up good ideas, but I promise you, to my mind, what has been designed in the GST and network is phenomenal. It's far beyond what the best of people had imagined GSTN to be. And why do I say there's actually no return? Every one of us, your diagnostic center friend included, must be maintaining a sale register. After all, an invoice register we all maintain in our accounts for our tax returns, service tax returns, income tax returns, labor returns. We all keep our sales register. But we also keep sales register for service tax separately, often for income tax separately, often for sales tax or VAT separately. Very often we also have to keep, rather not very often, all of us have to keep a purchase register separately, which also we have to enter. Then we have to compile all this data and make our return. We make a different return for service tax, make a different return for VAT, make a different return for entry tax in Navi Mumbai, for example, in lieu of octroi. And we are all the time bogged down with paperwork. What has GSTN done for us? GSTN has created a robust story where all you need to do is enter your purchase invoices honestly and diligently. Moment you have entered your purchase invoices, your one return gets sorted out, which is just an entry of your sales invoices. Only your sales invoices. Your sales invoice becomes the purchase invoice of somebody else, and his purchase register or purchase return is automatically populated from my sales.
No, but Minister,
let me complete. Okay. Let me complete. You can ask your supplementary after that. Once that purchase register gets populated, so by the 10th I file my sales register, which is just a compilation of my sales invoices, which we had to do in any case, everybody had to do, whether monthly or quarterly or whatever. 10th to 15th, the person who gets this as his purchase register can verify, and for which also we are creating a software which will do the matching automatically. If anything is not entered, he can call up the fellow from whom he purchased. तो तुमने sale invoice नहीं डाला है, मेरे यहाँ पे आया नहीं है. If he still doesn't enter, he can enter his purchase invoice. It will pop up as a sale of the person who had not entered the sale invoice. So really we are plugging all the loopholes and the leakages of the illegal transactions, and the purchase register gets auto-populated. Nobody has to prepare a new purchase register now. That's his second return. And the third is the matching of all your input credits and all your sales debits which you have to pay, which the computer program does automatically and drives out a figure which you have to pay as your tax. So effectively, and it may take a few weeks or few months for people to get used to writing the GST number correctly, the name of the party correctly, enter all their sales invoice. Some people who are too used to the informal economy we'll have to get used to the fact that ab kuch chup nahi sakta.
But that's the point I wanted to make. The reality of the Indian economy is most people don't maintain these comprehensive registers that you as the chartered accountant speak about. A lot of the transactions, especially pre-demonetization, were all in cash, and a lot of the traders don't. I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that.
Holding a brief for illegal transactions?
I think it's a fantastic idea, but then there are realistic concerns, and these people, I'm sure, come to you very frequently.
So anybody who doesn't report his sales is not a genuine concern. He wants to cheat. He wants to evade taxes. So would you, Rahul Kanwar, sitting on the Aaj Tak or India Today platform, wish that the government create avenues for people to cheat on taxes?
Not. How much,
not at all.
How much of the informal black economy, which so far isn't built, do you see getting added to the formal economy? Is there any calculation?
That's the reason I became a big fan of the GST and network as it has been created. It's so nice that really it leaves very little scope for anybody to be able to cheat on taxes now. For all these years, and I've been in business and industry for so many years before I became a minister, I found the competition used to be so unfair that if 2 people cheated on taxes, the other 8 who paid their taxes, because the people who did not pay their tax were more competitive in price, the honest man had either to join them.
No, so do you have a calculation? Is it at all possible to calculate how much of this informal black economy?
My sense is it will be near impossible. There's an infinity, nobody can talk of 100%. It's like that difference between less cash and cashless. But to my mind, it will become near impossible because all data from all sources getting captured in one platform. So even if, let's say, in the old days, somebody was not paying his taxes honestly, he would not enter his sales invoice. But somebody somewhere will enter a purchase invoice.
No, but you saw what happened, Minister, with demonetization. People found, we carried a series of 10 exposés called the Jugaad Mechanic, showing how different people were trying to short circuit the system. The one thing that comes to mind immediately is, given that you got a cap above which GST comes into place, people can say we are very small traders.
Fair enough.
We are so small that we don't come into
So nobody will get the credit on their goods. If they do not enter, pay their taxes, nobody will get the credit on their goods. So what will people do? After all, they want to show that purchase, right? Suppose I am a large trader, you are a small trader. You don't enter it and you are trying to hide even though you are above 75 lakhs. And you sell your goods to me. Now in my income tax, I have to show this as a purchase. Am I right? Assuming I'm not getting credit, at least in income tax, I'll have to show it as a purchase. So I'll enter your purchase invoice. I'll pay tax on it. And on a reverse charge, I'll get a credit for it. For me, it's a zero-sum game. I'll pay the tax and get credit. But in the process, I would have shown that I've purchased goods from you. Like that, whoever you sell to will all want to, in their income tax returns and all, take that debit of the cost. And the computer system will then red flag, hey, here's a name, Rahul Kanwar. His purchases by other people total to more than 75 lakhs. And you'll not be safe.
That is indeed the big promise that the GST has. There are a lot of the Indian black informal economy will now come in under its purview. We'll take a quick break. We return to the GST Town Hall in Mumbai. Town Hall, we're in Mumbai. We've got Piyush Goyal with us, and we've got a whole bunch of representatives of different trader associations here in Mumbai, and the minister will now be taking some questions.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Mohit Chaturvedi. I wanted to ask about
Can you just
GST,
tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I represent a chartered accountancy firm, one of the oldest in India. What I wanted to ask was, GST has been billed as one of the dream reforms of Narendra Modi ji. There's been a lot of myths around GST, needed some clarity. One important one being it'll give rise to corruption and Inspector Raj. Can you clarify a little bit on the transparency aspect and to bust that myth, sir?
Mr. Chaturvedi, the one myth that you need to be clarified and which you just mentioned is that it's a dream project of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. We would have loved that if we could have done this on our own and taken the whole credit, but the reality is not so. The reality is this is one credit and dream of every Indian. It is a dream which is being fulfilled by every political party working in consort. So you have even 2 communist governments supporting it full-fledged. You have governments who are very inimical to the BJP or NDA supporting it. So really, it would be very unfair on my part, though otherwise I would have loved to take this credit on my own, But the reality is it's a combined effort of the entire political establishment because it affects and will give a better quality of life for 125 crore.
But the one concern...
And as regards transparency and corruption, on the contrary, this is going to eliminate corruption. It's the best way to be transparent, that if the whole country only enters their sales invoices, I'm again repeating, there's no returns, no 37 returns, nothing. Enter your sales invoice, sleep peacefully at night.
Myself, Bal Malkeet Singh, Chairman Core Committee, All India Motor Transport, which is the apex body for the truckers. And we are very, road transport sector is very optimistic about the GST, because the reason is that today our vehicle move around 280 kilometers per day due to the frequent checkovers in the state checkpost. And we are hopeful that after GST, the state checkpost will be abolished, so our vehicle can be making around 480
that's not happening on the 1st of July.
Sir, 480 to 500 kilometers per day. So we, as Mantriji has stated, that they have the robust system, GSTN. So we also want to know that whether we have to carry the invoices which on the manual, whether there will be the frequent checkover, जैसे नाकाबंदी करके बार बार जगह पे गाड़ी रोकी जाती है, उसे हरैश किया जाता है, और स्टेट चेक पोस्ट है जो भ्रष्टाचार के बड़े कारण है, और सरकार का उद्देश्य है कि भ्रष्टाचार बंद होना चाहिए.
That's a very good question, Minister, because the doing away of these state check posts, the nakas, was supposed to be the one most visible manifestation of the GST. All reports emerging now seem to suggest that because the e-way bill is not finalized, there is some lack of consensus. This won't happen on the 1st of July, taking away one of the biggest, most visible advantages of the GST.
Well, because the GST Council is still deciding on the exact formats, the process will take some time. But I just want to know that if we are looking at some change and a transformational change as this, suppose one aspect of that happens 10 days later, 15 days later, does it kill the whole process, kill the whole concept? So let the GST.
Do you think the delay will only be 10-15 days or could be longer?
Let it be longer. ये तो 70 साल के delay के बाद देश पे परिवर्तन आ रहा है. जिस देश ने 70 साल धीरज रखा और सब्र रखा, तो थोड़े दिन और देख लेगा. लेकिन the good part, tell me, I'd also like to inform, I've run industry. Excise invoice के बगैर तो कोई ट्रक में माल जा ही नहीं सकता था पहले भी. तो आज भी अगर ई-वे बिल जाना पड़े, ई-वे बिल साथ में जाए गुड्स के, तो अच्छा ही है ना. नंबर 2 का धंधा पकड़ में आएगा, बंद होगा. अगर सब ट्रांसपोर्टर्स हमारा सहयोग करें और खुद निर्णय करें, हम बिना प्रॉपर इनवॉइस के हम आगे जाएंगे ही नहीं. और मे बी हम आई एम जस्ट थिंकिंग अलाउड, क्योंकि ये प्रश्न उठा, आई नॉट थॉट ऑफ इट. समझो हम ये कर दें कि हर ट्रांसपोर्टर को भी जीएसटीएन में ले लें, तो जो सेल्स इनवॉइस वो ट्रक में कैरी कर रहा है वो एंटर कर दे. तो अगर कोई चेक पोस्ट भी है तो इट कैन बी एन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक चेक पोस्ट. फ्रॉम देयर विल टेक द ट्रक नंबर and electronically we can see.
The idea was to do away with those check posts.
There won't be any check post. It will be an electronic check post, I'd say.
हमारा यही मानना है कि जब भी सारा कुछ ऑनलाइन सिस्टम में है, हमारा एक ही ये है रिजर्वेशन है कि हमें रस्तों पे तंग नहीं किया जाए, जो 70 वर्ष से हो रहा है.
मैं 100% आपके साथ मानता हूँ और यही उद्देश्य है जीएसटी का. इसके लिए जीएसटी काउंसिल ने ई-वे को अभी तक लागू नहीं किए, इसको सस्पेंड किया हुआ है और चर्चा कर रहे हैं कि कैसा सिस्टम बनाया जाए जिससे चेक पोस्ट भी ना हो, लेकिन भ्रष्टाचार और नंबर 2 का धंधा भी रोकने का साधन बन सके. तो दे आर स्टिल इवॉल्विंग अ टेक्नोलॉजिकल सोल्यूशन टू द प्रॉब्लम. गिव इट सम मोर टाइम.
सर, मेरी गाड़ी अगर 500 किलोमीटर करती है तो लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट भी कहीं ना कहीं कम होगा.
एग्जैक्टली. और आपका भ्रष्टाचार का मुसीबत भी खत्म होगी.
That gentleman there.
Sir, I'm Uttam Bagri. I'm the chairman of the Bombay Stock Exchange Brokers Forum. Stock market is not just the prices, also lots of businesses. There are lots of businesses which run, we are one of probably the first to come under service tax. The law is fine. We will implement it. In fact, stockbrokers and other intermediaries have better systems compared to most of the businesses. But there are many questions that we keep on asking ourselves जिसमें clarity नहीं है. For example, definition of agent. अब मेरा सब ब्रोकर मेरा एजेंट है कि नहीं? These are the questions that we एक कंसल्टेंट से पूछो, कुछ और बोलता है, दूसरा लोग कुछ और बोलता है. कुछ लोग बोलते हैं एसटीटी के ऊपर भी जीएसटी लगेगा.
So आप कंसल्टेंट को क्यों पूछते हो? डिपार्टमेंट को पूछो ना. हमारा इतना रोबस्ट डिपार्टमेंट है यहाँ पे, इतने अच्छे लोग हैं हमारे साथ यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, महेंद्र जी, आप इन लोगों को पूछिए, आप इधर उधर क्यों धक्के खा रहे हैं?
इसी पॉइंट में कह रहा था,
एसोसिएशन आपके सब सवाल उठा ले और एक बार इनको इनवाइट करे। हमारे अधिकारियों ने आपकी जानकारी के लिए, हमारे मतलब केंद्र ने, राज्य और केंद्र के मिलके एक हफ्ते पहले तक 4,527 वर्कशॉप की थी अलग अलग एसोसिएशन के साथ देश भर में। चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स ने 200 हेल्प डेस्क शुरू किए हैं देश भर में, जो मुफ्त में छोटे व्यापारियों को, मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को मुफ्त में हैंड होल्ड कर रहे हैं, रजिस्ट्रेशन करने में हैंड होल्ड करेंगे, पहले 2-3 महीने रिकॉर्ड्स रखने में। डिपार्टमेंट ने मुफ्त में सॉफ्टवेयर दिया है कि आप उस सॉफ्टवेयर में ऑफलाइन सिर्फ सेल्स इनवॉइस एंटर करो, इंटरनेट की भी जरूरत है, महीने में एक बार एक कॉल सेंटर में जाके 10 मिनट में वो अपलोड हो जाएगा, 3 मिनट में अपलोड हो जाएगा।
Does that software give you some heebie-jeebies? The fact that it can supposedly take 3.5 billion transactions a month, but it's a software that hasn't been tested at any serious load.
It has already been tested. The beta testing has been done.
But not at
another round of testing we are planning to do in the next few days. But Rahul, वही बात हो गई, पानी में कूदोगे नहीं तो तैरना नहीं सीखोगे। आप बाहर बैठे हुए जितना भी सिमुलेशन से बटरफ्लाई स्ट्रोक कर लो, फलाना डिमका, पानी में कूदे बगैर आप स्विमिंग नहीं सीख सकते। तो एक बार इस देश को 1 जुलाई को जीएसटी को शुरू करना पड़ेगा। उसमें जो जो विषय आएंगे, तो हमको किधर भाग के तो नहीं जा रहे हैं, आपके स्टेट की मशीनरी है, ये तो इसमें तो सबसे बड़ा एडवांटेज ये है कि दोनों सेंटर और स्टेट सब मिलके काम कर रहे हैं। तो आपके पास तो गली गली में लोग होंगे जो आपको गाइड करने के लिए, और कुछ जेन्युइन चीजें आएंगी तो हम भी तो आपके ही है ना, आपने ही चुन के हमें भेजा है, राज्य सरकारों को भी आपने ही चुन के भेजा है। तो मिल बैठ के राज्य सरकार, केंद्र सरकार, जीएसटी काउंसिल सॉल्यूशंस भी निकालेंगे।
The gentleman at the back.
My name is Manor Wagle. I head the Maharashtra Sports and Fitness Trade Association. Now what I am going to ask today, sir, is something which concerns everyone in this room, because all of you have children, grandchildren who need to play. We are trying to encourage sports. We want people to come out and play sports. We welcome your GST, sir. GST is good. It's giving a level playing field. I appreciate all of that. But can you please explain to me that when the finance minister had said that 28% will be levied on luxury goods and on sin goods, how some of our products have been pushed up? Athletics, which is an Olympic event. Gymnastics, Olympic events. We want people to go out and win medals.
Fair question. Minister,
we want people to win medals.
Very good point. Bear in mind, first of all, finance minister alone cannot decide anything. It's the GST council. All the finance ministers have to unanimously agree. But the rule that the GST council agreed on was that whatever is the existing rate on any product, sadly if the existing rate on your product was close to 28%, when you combine the excise duty, the sales tax or VAT, the octroi or entry duty and all of them, in case the rate comes close to 28, then it will get into the 28 bracket. If it comes on 18, it will get into the 18 bracket. So we have tried that the benefit or the loss to any particular product or sector is the minimum. Existing rates are maintained, and over a period of time as revenue collection goes up.
Minister, we've had a very engaging session here. Just looking at the level of engagement, the kind of questions, it's very clear we're going to jump into that pool. Now let's see how quickly we can learn how to swim. Thank you so much for joining us at the India Today GST Town Hall in Mumbai. And thank you all for joining us in this program. Thank you.